Ethereum's biggest issue is the way they structure their ecosystem. They're being eaten alive by parasitic layer twos. Everybody's ignoring that you have these giant sleeping titans, XRP and Bitcoin, for example, which when you combine them, the TVL of potential for that, it's about 4 times the market cap of Bitcoin, of Ethereum and Solana combined. But Cardano, the way it was built, is really an organic extension of what Bitcoin started. It's not hard to do scale. It's harder to scale with decentralization.
Could you please share your perspective about the evolution of cryptocurrencies, like from Bitcoin to Ethereum and to the next generation?
See, I tend to look at generations in terms of the problems that they're trying to solve. So the first generation was just about, is it possible to move value around like email for money in a decentralized way? Or do you have to have some third trusted party to maintain the ledger? And that was a known. Nobody knew. You know, we started talking about it in the 80s in the cypherpunk movement. And David Chaum was a revolutionary guy back in the 90s, and he had DigiCash, but nobody had cracked that nut. And then Satoshi comes out of damn nowhere and comes up with this ability to create and transfer that value in a decentralized way. That was amazing. And here's the problem. You have a hedonic amnesia with these types of things. So the minute you solve it, you're like, wow. And then 2 years later is, whatever. So the iPhone was exactly like that. People saw the iPhone, and I remember navigating with MapQuest and printing out the maps and these types of things. And then suddenly you have this phone and you can like use Google Maps, and oh my God, it's amazing. It's so incredible. And then a year later, it's like, what else you got? So Bitcoin was the same. It was, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. And then everybody's like, well, but wait a minute, I need programmability. You know, it's kind of like when JavaScript came to the web browser. Before JavaScript came, you had websites, but you really couldn't do anything. You just read text and see like the little GIF picture with the flames and these things. It's like, that's your web. Then JavaScript comes, and then suddenly you got Facebook, you got YouTube, you got all these amazing experiences. You got web games, you know, everything is awesome. Okay, well, Ethereum comes in the second generation. This is around 2014. And there, all of a sudden, you have programmability. And then you get DeFi and GameFi and all the FIs. You get NFTs, you get metaverses, you get these things. Then, but people say, hang on a second here, guys. It's not cost effective. You need predictable pricing. You need scale. You need interoperability, because all these different complex things have to talk to each other. And the most important part is you need governance. So very quickly after building the second generation, everybody started saying it needs to be better, faster, cheaper, talk to everything. And it has to behave like a centralized company, but be decentralized in terms of product. Because when you think about products, you have like the iPhone. Who makes the iPhone? Apple. So you as a consumer have an expectation that every year some guy in a black turtleneck is going to come out and be like, let me tell you about the iPhone. It's the most amazing thing. And you believe that. And same for Windows and Microsoft. You say, oh, the guy at Microsoft's going to come out and be like, oh, there's Windows 12 and there's Windows 13 and there's Windows 14 and it has all these new things. So who's the guy in the turtleneck for a decentralized protocol? Do you elect them? Do you just not do it like Bitcoin? And so it just stays at the same capability set forever? Or do you have like a governing council or these things? So governance is super hard because, like, is there any government right now working that everybody's happy with? If you go to throw a dart, you know, at a world map and it hits a country at random, do you think that the president of that country has 100% popularity? Maybe North Korea, but you get shot if you say no, you know. So decentralized governance super hard. So that's the third generation: decentralized governance, interoperability, and scalability. And you know, that's the big differentiator between Cardano and Ethereum. Cardano has an on-chain governance system. Cardano has a lot of stuff built in for interoperability, especially on the Bitcoin side. And Cardano also has, I'd say, protocols that are far more scalable at the layer one than Ethereum has at the moment.
Cardano has, I would say, in some eyes, been seen as slow and maybe sometimes even too slow. But what would you say? How does Cardano differentiate from its competitors like Solana, like Avalanche, or all the other chains? And what makes it so special in your view?
You know, there's this war of the titans right now between Solana and Ethereum. And so Ethereum's biggest issue is the way they structure their ecosystem. They're being eaten alive by parasitic layer twos. It's absorbing all the transaction volume of the users, and they have no loyalty to the system. So that layer two can find a better deal somewhere else. It'll just uproot and go there and take the users and transaction volume with it. So it's like mosquitoes sucking the blood gradually out of you. You get too many of them, you're not going to have a lot of blood left. Solana, their growth model has been really in the second act, because the first act was SBF and FTX and these things, and it really hurt them. They made a master stroke of a recovery, but really the recovery came with meme coins. They have to figure out how to grow beyond that part of the ecosystem and become something in their own right. But it's a good team, and there's very smart people there. So I think they have a good chance for it. But here's the thing. As they fight, everybody's ignoring that you have these giant sleeping titans, XRP and Bitcoin, for example, which when you combine them, the TVL of potential for that, it's about 4 times the market cap of Bitcoin, of Ethereum and Solana combined. So a lot of people are like, well, how do you beat Solana? How do you beat Ethereum? They say, well, okay, have you ever tried to connect an account system to a UTXO system? Have you ever guys tried to connect the Ripple ledger to an account system? Not easy. But Cardano, the way it was built, is really an organic extension of what Bitcoin started. We have extended UTXO to UTXO. We have deflationary monetary policy. The smart contract model would have been what Satoshi would have written had Bitcoin script been more expressive. So we're really thinking holistically and saying over the next 5 to 10 years, the largest growth of users' liquidity in TVL is going to be coming from Bitcoin DeFi and Ripple entering the DeFi world and bringing the institutions with it, because our RWA is a multi-trillion-dollar marketplace. So we're in the nexus point in that, where we actually have the best technology to communicate with those guys, and we're the most decentralized and secure to do so. And you don't have to violate the security model of XRP or Bitcoin to enable that. So when I look to the horizon, I say, okay, that's where the puck is going to go. And a lot of people are going to chase that. We already have a lot of great data. Like when they just slowly started opening Bitcoin DeFi after Taproot, there's already $5.8 billion in TVL. And almost no one's trying. And there's a terrible user experience right now for it. So when the user experience gets good, everybody's going to do that. And it's not going to be possible or easy to do in the Solana context or the Ethereum context. So that's where we focus most of our effort. As for we're too slow, well, we did all the peer review and the stuff, and that's what we got the liquid non-custodial staking for. These other things. It's very easy to get higher TPS. The hard part is get higher TPS preserving your decentralization. I can always run something on an Amazon server and take your best BFT protocol off the shelf and be like, there you go. It's 10,000 TPS. Oh God, I wish we could have figured that out. It's like, come on, guys. We've written 240 academic papers and we have 168 scientists. We're pretty good at this. Okay. We invented half this stuff. It's not hard to do scale. It's hard to do scale with decentralization. So the route that we took, we feel very confident in that, because there's 3 different dimensions that you have to preserve. One is on the layer 1, as you scale the protocol, you want to keep the same amount of people participating in consensus or more. Or otherwise, you end up having like 5 nodes that process all your transactions, and then you're completely centralized. Ouroboros Leos is our approach there. It took us 6 years to write that protocol, and now we're in the prototyping phase of it. We're starting to turn on those elements. And over time, stage by stage, they turn on. But what the data is showing us is we're not consensus constrained. We're network constrained, which means that protocol just organically gets faster forever. As network connections get faster and you get more optimizations there, you get higher TPS rate. The second thing is more efficient utilization of your on-chain traffic. And so UTXO is awesome for this, because what you can do is one transaction can be many things at the same time. And this is something, if you come from Ethereum land or Solana land, you don't understand. You're thinking sequentially, and you're saying, no, that transaction's the Uniswap transaction, or that transaction's this thing or this thing. Well, let me show you guys something. It's like I can tell you or I can show you. So there's a really cool website here I'd encourage everybody to go to, and it's called eutxo.org. And let me go ahead and bring this up for you. So I'll share my screen. That's your window. All right. So if you guys just go ahead and add that, you can see it.
Yes.
All right. You see the screen?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So this right here is a real-time view. And it's always dangerous to do these demos because you actually get to see the Cardano network real-time. And what this is basically doing is it's showing what's going on. So these aren't blocks, these are transactions. So this one transaction here has 16 NFTs issued, something on SNEC, which is that's probably a liquidity aggregator. There's several ADA transactions here. An NFT got moved. Whatever the hell this cock thing is. This is one transaction. So you don't have TPS in Cardano. You have TPT, transactions per transaction. So this is an infinitely scalable model because your transaction graph can get larger, your output set can get larger over time. And all these things that are happening can go from individual atomic events to proofs. That's what these scripts are. And those proofs can represent tons of things. So if you pick the right model for this, especially if you construct this model in a way, like right here, a book just got issued. So somebody just bought a book and they moved a bunch of ADA. Look at that. And that's a real-time view of the network, and you can see the utilization. And so sometimes the blocks are small, sometimes they're completely filled. So this is kind of a light day, but this model here is infinitely scalable. When you think about it, because you can always make more outputs. You can always fill the outputs with proofs that represent batches of things. And then you can layer on something called intents. So what you can do is you can create kind of pseudo transactions, and you can put all the transactions in a gate to improve the optimization of those types of things. Then the third thing is off-chain. So do you have a story where the things that happen off-chain are the same as the things that happen on-chain? In the accounts model, the answer is no. You have to spend enormous overhead trying to figure all that out. But in the UTXO model, you have a property called isomorphism, which means the answer is yes. So you can do what they did with Lightning, but what Vitalik wanted to do with Plasma, and you can have those be state channels. And that means you can have, on a DApp by DApp basis, potentially infinite scale there. And we demonstrated that with Hydra Doom. So we took the video game Hydra, we took every frame of the video game, and we made it a transaction. It's like 24, 36 frames a second, whatever Doom was capped at back in the day. You have multiplayer, people play. And that network of Hydra heads was able to do 1 million transactions per second, which is about as fast as you'd ever need. Visa's operating at 50,000. So those three things together, a good layer one scaling solution, a more efficient utilization of how you program and batch things using proofs and intents and the UTXO graph, and then combine that with Hydra for having a really good layer two story that is non-parasitic, because Hydra doesn't have a token. It's just a state channel on a DApp by DApp basis. That's how you achieve organic scalability. And by the way, all of that preserves 50% Byzantine resistance. So you solve the blockchain trilemma when you think about these types of things. So you can say it or you can see it. Anybody can go and watch the network live. In fact, one of these days I'm going to put like a computer monitor on my wall and have UTXO just running 24/7. So it's a live pulse of the Cardano network. But all that technology is foundational and it's been built to scale. So you just turn on those capabilities over time when the wave of Bitcoin DeFi comes in and the XRP stuff comes in and these other things come in.